It's no secret that we love mysteries over here at Top 5 Scary Videos, mainly because, well, our planet is filled to the brim with more legendary instances of intrigue and baffling occurrences of long forgotten history that we need only take a look at the ancient wonders of the world to feel inspired enough to charter a plane, assemble a ragtag team of researchers and adventurers, slap on a wide-brimmed leather hat and begin our own journey to the most mysterious locations of the ancient world. The fact of the matter remains, the strange inconsistencies of our civilization frequently spark many more questions than they do answers. And I don't know about you, but I'm definitely in the mood for some ancient history. Hello horror fans, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. As per usual, I'll be your horror host, Jack Finch, as today we're curious to take a look at the top 5 most mysterious places in ancient history. For the clip.
Latin alphabet. Jehovah begins with an I.
For the curious amongst you, that scene was, of course, from the incredible third installment, The Last Crusade, which, as we all know, is the second greatest movie in the whole Indiana Jones franchise. And if you don't agree with me, then yes, Raiders of the Lost Ark wins that battle every damn day. Still, it paints a vivid picture, right? Because what would this list be without setting the scene for our mysterious places in ancient history? And that film in particular also happens to feature one of our entries, so I'll let you take a guess. Kicking off at number 5, the LONGYOU Caves. And this place in particular is absolutely mind-blowing, given the fact that if it was indeed made by human civilization, then we've got to really take a look at how capable our ancient ancestors actually were at building things. Picture this, in 1992 in the small Chinese village of LONGYOU, the locals had lived for centuries beside a small series of ponds that littered the landscape. Local legend believed that these ponds were bottomless, infinite wells of water, but one local in particular named Wu and I set out to put that legend to the test. After pooling his money together with another villager, he purchased a pump and completely drained one of the ponds, and that's when Wu and I discovered that it wasn't a pond at all, but instead the flooded entrance to an ancient series of man-made caves. But when I say caves, I don't just mean a few interesting holes in the earth, I mean hand-carved caves, each the size of roughly 1,000 square meters, reaching up to heights of up to 100 feet. Inside, the ceilings, the walls, the pillars that maintain their structural integrity were all finished in the exact same manner, hand-carved with a series of parallel bands and intricate markings. Now, no one has any clue how the hell these caves were created or who created them, but researchers have found that they date back to at least 220 BCE, a period that predates the ancient Qin dynasty, although no trace of their construction or even their existence has ever been located in the historic record. In fact, up until their discovery in 1992, the LONGYOU caves were forgotten to the sands of time. It makes you think, what else is lurking down there, right? Coming in next at number 4, Petra. And yes, of course, this is the scene that I was alluding to in our opening clip, the ancient city of Petra, described by UNESCO as one of the most precious cultural properties of mankind's cultural heritage, and perhaps one of the most amazing archaeological wonders on this fair planet. This place is fascinating, and it's a monument to the fact that we really have no idea how capable humanity has been for thousands upon thousands of years. Petra, originally known to its inhabitants as Rakmu, is believed to have been settled perhaps as early as 9000 BC, although earlier estimations have been suggested. However, by the 5th century BC it is believed that the city of Petra itself was settled by the mysterious Nabatean kingdom, an ancient conglomerate of Bedouin tribes that were incredibly astute traders and economists who for the most part were a nomadic people but recognized the significance of Petra's geographical location. And for the most part that was fit exactly for Petra's purpose, as it quickly became a massive central hub for trading routes across the world, gaining the Nabatean kingdom incredible wealth in the process. But I mean, you just need to look at Petra to start scratching your head at the incredible intricacies of its design. I don't say this lightly, because the Rose City of Petra is an absolutely stunning feat of engineering at a time when nomadic societies weren't exactly known for their capability in raising wonders of the world. So how was it built? Well, the leading theory so far is that the Nabatean people harnessed the location susceptibility to flash flooding, gradually carving the narrow passages into the city-like network that we now know. Either way, whatever the truth to it, Petra is an ancient wonder to behold. Oh, and also archaeologists have just discovered that there's a gigantic monumental structure buried beneath the sands of Petra. So yeah, do with that information as you will. Swinging in next at number 3, DERINKUYU underground city. And if things weren't already crazy enough, what if I told you that there is an ancient, highly advanced underground complex carved beneath the central Anatolian city of DERINKUYU in Turkey that is believed to have been large enough to have sheltered up to 20,000 people and more than likely connects several other similar underground complexes across the ancient historical site of Cappadocia. Yeah, My thoughts exactly. I don't even know where to begin with this one, because as the eons of time have slowly shifted by, countless people have taken shelter within DERINKUYU, using it as their home across the ages, and because of that, it's incredibly difficult to pinpoint just exactly when it was built. Its purpose, however, is relatively clear. It's a multi-level city built underground, carved from the soft volcanic rock of the region. It consists of 18 stories that descend deep into the earth, comprised of sophisticated carved shafts that house the complex's multitude of amenities: communal rooms, wine cellars, oil presses, stables, even entire chapels. Each floor of the city can be closed off by a series of large stone doors, which in theory makes it some kind of ancient underground bunker, given the other facilities gathered over time. Historically speaking, the Phrygians of the 8th century BCE were the first alleged inhabitants of the vast underground city, although the fact of the matter remains, we may never truly know who built this place. Scholars have given many suggestions, primarily being a sect of the ancient Persians or the Hittites, but I'm not entirely sure. Put a pin in this one, because there are many more secrets to be learned from this. Next up at number 2, MADOL. And what if I told you that this place in particular was the source of inspiration for none other than H.P. Lovecraft's sunken city of R'lyeh, as in, yes, in his house at R'lyeh, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. That one. But if that's not impressive enough, the ancient megalithic architecture of MADOL, just off the coast of the island of Pohnpei, which is part of the remote islands of Micronesia, are something else entirely. And really, I don't know what to think when it comes to trying to decipher the eternal enigma that is MADOL, often referred to as the 8th wonder of the world. There's a reason it has left archaeologists scratching their heads ever since its rediscovery in the early 19th century. Now, carbon dating has indicated that the construction of the massive basalt stones of MADOL began sometime in 1180 AD, although many scholars find umbrage with this, given the fact that to move these giant hunks of rock from tiny island to tiny island and then carve them into a series of intricate channels and platforms is a feat in and of itself. Its purpose is somewhat clear though. MADOL appeared to have housed the ruling elite caste of the ancient Sudilair dynasty of Pohnpei, where it was used as a political and ceremonial seat of power, essentially housing a vast network of small floating platforms and islands that formed into a rich, majestic capital city carved from black stone. Yeah, I don't want to make any assumptions, but there are many more answers to be revealed by MADOL, and it's no wonder that Lovecraft himself found an ancient kind of inspiration from it. And finally, coming in at our number 1 spot, the SAJAMA lines. And whilst you more than definitely have probably already heard of the Nazca lines of Peru, I'm going to go one further and highlight the equally perplexing mystery that is the SAJAMA lines of Western Bolivia, because boy oh boy are these things a head scratcher. The SAJAMA lines are a network of thousands, possibly tens of thousands of perfectly straight paths that were etched into the ground by the indigenous peoples of the Americas for more than 3,000 years, that were situated near the volcano of SAJAMA. Unlike the Nazca lines though, this particular network covers an area of over 22,500 square kilometers, which is approximately 15 times larger than their counterparts in Peru. And what are they? Well, no one knows, and we may never know, but what is clear is the startling precision in which they were made. These thousands of individual lines, each 3 to 10 feet in width, are almost perfectly straight, mile after mile, despite the ever-changing rugged terrain of the highlands, which would have been quite a feat for modern humanity, never mind an ancient indigenous people without the means to advance construction techniques. These geoglyphs were most likely created through the process of scraping away the dark, oxidized rock of the volcanic surface to reveal a lighter sediment beneath. You see, despite all of these enigmas of ancient history, the real question is, why did these people go to such lengths of time and effort to create them? What were their intentions of preservation? Who would have seen them or used them? Now, there are many leading theories, the most prominent of which is that the SAJAMA lines were used as a pilgrimage route to a series of sacred sites, but yeah, I have no idea. I really have no idea. I mean, I want to know, but will we ever? Well, on that ancient existential note, there we have it, our list for the top 5 most mysterious places in ancient history. What did you guys think? Do you agree? Have any more to add to this series in particular? Then please let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below, as well as any choice picks of your own. Before we depart from today's video, let's first take a quick look at some of your more resounding remarks over the past few days. First up, Irish Lass says, "Awesomeness Jack, you are a mystery man. Who's your favourite author of all time?" Well, thank you very much, but first up, is that you are a mystery, comma, man, or you are a mystery man, as in like a fan of mysteries, or a mystery themed superhero? That'd be dope. Anyway, I'm just trying to avoid the question because it's perhaps the hardest question to answer. Purely as a writer, Stephen King, as a world builder, George Martin, as a complete and utter madman genius, Fyodor Dostoevsky. Whew. That was a tough one. Well, on that note, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for in today's video. Just stick around all the way until the end. If you were a fan of this video, or just top 5 scary videos in particular, then please be a dear and hit that thumbs up button, as well as that subscribe bell, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. As per usual, I've been your horror host, Jack Finch. You've been watching top 5 scary videos, and until next time, you take it easy. There are other worlds than these, and thankfully for us, horror fiction and the wider world of literature seems to have quite the knack for creating some of the most unfathomably terrifying realms of pure nightmare fuel for us to sweat over and hope that we never ever accidentally wake up in these strange new lands. There's nothing quite like turning the pages of horror fiction as our poor unassuming narrators tread their way through ancient and terrifying lands, tiptoeing around slumbering abominations and wondering why in the hell they ever thought that this was a good idea in the first place. After all, as Bilbo Baggins himself told us, it's a dangerous business going out your door. Hello horror fans, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the Scary channel on YouTube, top 5 scary videos. As per usual, I'll be your horror host Jack Finch, as today we curiously take a look at the top 5 most terrifying places in literature. Roll the clip.
Let me show you.
For the curious amongst you, that clip was from 1997's Event Horizon, an awesome movie filled to the brim with more existential hell dimensions of eternal torture and pain than what you may have first expected. After all, hell is only a word, the reality is much, much worse. It leads us to an important point though, because many of the nightmare realms that have sealed their fate in literature are a portrayal of the stereotypical view of the Abrahamic hell. Fire and brimstone, you know the drill. And while some of them are much more terrifying than others, and yes, have found their way onto this list, we have to give an honourable mention to all of the mythological realms that came before it. Hades, hell with a single L, the Egyptian underworld, yeah, you get the picture. Kicking off at number 5, the Labyrinth. Because when we're talking about hell and the underworld, Clive Barker's interpretation of demons to some, angels to others is a completely different kettle of fish, where all manners of body horrors and dimensional demonic entities find themselves an equally terrifying house and home, which is aptly named Hell, or the more structurally appropriate, the Labyrinth. First penned in Barker's 1986 novella The Hellbound Heart, and later expanded upon in the Scarlet Gospels, as well as the film and graphic novel series that followed, in Barker's world, his demonic Cenobites reside eternally in an unholy and evil realm of limitless pain or pleasure, if you're into that kind of thing. In its natural state, hell takes on the form of the dark, winding labyrinth most commonly visualized in the graphic series, but it also has the power to take on any shape or state depending on the amassed pleasures or pains of the souls that are contained within it. Now, because of that, it has widely been speculated and somewhat confirmed by Barker that this is definitely not the Abrahamic version of hell, but instead an extra dimension. In essence, the labyrinth is some form of permeable realm that can be perceived as heaven or hell by whoever is trapped inside. It's led some to believe that the labyrinth itself represents the true nature of the human mind and all of the infinite possibilities that reside within the cracks of reality. And you know, that's also not really accounting for the fact that it's ruled over by the eternal evil Leviathan, a creature of ancient chaos that perpetually levitates at the geographical center of the labyrinth, watching over his hellish kingdom, raising towering sky-blotting monoliths to glorify his dominion over the Cenobites and mankind. I mean, for the most part, despite being one of the most hellish depictions of hell itself, you can't deny that Barker created an incredibly interesting landscape for horror fiction. Coming in at number 4, Dante's Inferno. Because if we're talking about hell, then finally we can mention the resounding work of classic literature, the 14th century epic poem that made up the first part of Dante's Divine Comedy, one of the most important works in the whole of canonical literature, and the allegorical progenitor of pretty much every hellish realm ever written after that. Also, this particular point goes out to the steadfast dedication of our top 5 scary viewer, Spencer Beard. Although we can't do an entire top 5 list of Dante's punishments, we can definitely condense them into one. So yeah, there we have it. Thanks. Now, as many of you will already know, Dante's depiction of hell is the archetype that laid the foundation for the vast majority of horror fiction, although it may not be as apparent as you may think. In the poem that begins on the evening of Maundy Thursday, the narrator, Dante himself, finds himself lost in a dark, dark wood, and after being nearly ravaged to death by 3 beasts, a leopard, a lion, and a wolf, he's rescued by the ghost of the Roman poet Virgil, who leads him through the gates of the underworld to begin a journey of the very fabric of the Abrahamic religion. And of course, what better place place to begin than with hell. In Dante's Inferno, hell is depicted as 9 concentric circles of eternal pain and torment, located deep within the bowels of the earth. These consist of limbo, lust, gluttony, greed, wrath, heresy, violence, fraud, and treachery, each of them dedicated to facilitating astutely specific and horrifying torments to bind any hateful soul for eternal punishment. Perhaps the worst of these is the Malbolge, the 8th circle of hell that consists of the 10 bulges, a series of deep ditches where fraudsters, grifters, and thieves alike are dismembered and disemboweled over and over for eternity by a host of demons. Yeah, it's a pretty nasty place. Next up at number 3, ARRAKIS. Because talking about nasty and equally inhospitable places, Frank Herbert's fascinating and terrifying desert planet of Arrakis that makes up the homeworld of his fantastic sci-fi epic novel Dune is perhaps its own version of hell for those not willing to adapt to the relentless trials and torments that lurk deep within it. For those of you that haven't read Frank Herbert's Dune saga, please do, although they are pretty lengthy books, so I'll forgive you if you choose to watch David Lynch's 1984 film instead, because they're both great, although the books are better. The fact of the matter is though, when it comes to Arrakis, there's a lot to get through, so I'll try and condense things as much as possible. As laid out in the Dune saga, the planet of Arrakis is a desert wasteland battered eternally by scorching heat and a dry, arid climate where pretty much nothing can live or grow, save for a few hardy species of mice. Oh, and yeah, of course, a population of giant frickin' sandworms that live deep within the planet's surface, erupting out of the desert wasteland to destroy anything and everything whenever they feel like it. You might be thinking, well, why would anyone ever want to go to Arrakis then? And well, that's because the planet itself is the most valuable planet in the cosmos, and at the beginning of the saga, it is the only place in the Juniverse that produces spice, an incredibly powerful resource that powers spaceflight, and whoever controls the spice controls the destiny of mankind, and thus begins the eternal struggle and chaotic political espionage that is Frank Herbert's Dune saga. Because although we've somewhat touched on the geographical horrors that lie within Arrakis, we haven't even gotten close to how damn violent and dangerous living on this planet would be if you somehow found yourself as a character in the novel, especially if your last name is Atreides and your first name just so happens to be Paul. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't matter what material terrors are lurking within a fictional world, because if you fill it with enough villains, assassins, and bloodthirsty berserkers, it kind of just writes itself. Swinging in at number 2, COMMORRAGH. And truth be told, we couldn't really do this list without somewhere mentioning the grim darkness of the Warhammer 40k universe, and although there are more nightmarish worlds and dimensions of pure chaos that make up the fictional realm, perhaps the most terrifying of them all is the dark city of COMMORRAGH, the vile, obscene, and impossibly evil home of the Dark Eldar. In the Warhammer universe, the city itself is said to be impossible for any outsiders to find, and it is widely believed to be hidden deep within the interdimensional labyrinth of the Webway, a corrupted version spreading out across the cosmic chaos like a virus. Because of that, COMMORRAGH is a city of impossible creation, linked together by shimmering dimensional shortcuts, portals that are scattered throughout the galaxy, sometimes light years apart, but bound together by the chaos of the Dark Eldar's corruption. I mean, COMMORRAGH is such an evil place that even the shadows that slink through the city have a habit of consuming its inhabitants. Not like it matters either, as COMMORRAGH's population is estimated to be more than most star systems and is considered to be bigger than even mankind's largest hive cities combined. And it's also important to note that the population is comprised of some of the most evil, treacherous, and violent individuals in the entire Warhammer universe. Trillions of them, all condensed into one sprawling viral city, and truth be told, COMMORRAGH puts to shame pretty much every other den of evil in fiction. Mordor can move over, forget about Azkaban or any of its ilk. In fact, when Ben Kenobi told Luke Skywalker that he couldn't find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy than Mos Eisley, he obviously had never visited COMMORRAGH. And finally, coming in at our number 1 spot, the Dreamlands. Because, of course, we cannot talk of terrifying places in literature without paying homage to Lovecraft's most complete and horrifying dimensions, the Dreamlands. The fact of the matter is, we could probably make an entire list out of Lovecraft's bizarre and terror-inducing alien planets, but it's in the extra-dimensional impossibility of the landscape that he described in his dream cycle where the horror that we all share lies. Because what could be more terrifying than a realm that we could all potentially access, in theory anyway? First noted in his 1918 short story Polaris, and as described in perhaps his most complete novella, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, Lovecraft went on to fully flesh out the Dreamlands in a series of short stories written between 1918 and 1932, portraying entire cities of moon beasts, man-eating spiders, vast plateaus of satyr men that worship toad priests, and castles of ancient design perched upon mountains of black rock. The thing is, like with many of Lovecraft's cosmic horror, it comes with the magnitude infinitude of not knowing where this land begins and where it ends. The Dreamlands could be infinite, and as Randolph Carter discovered in the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, the terrifying extent to this place is limited only by the human imagination. Oh, and also not only that, but of course, nowhere is safe from the outer gods, not even human consciousness, because the crawling chaos himself, Nyarlathotep, holds dominion over the Dreamlands, slowly pulling the strings and puppeteering his way across the realm, corrupting dreamers and lost souls alike, as well as the unfortunate races that populate its bizarre and impossible landscape. Essentially, the Dreamlands is Lewis Carroll's Wonderland, except instead of slipping through a looking glass or falling down a rabbit's warren, you could accidentally find yourself in this place during a bad dream, and then become addicted to the mysteries and infinite curiosity of its design, and before you know it, you're a dream junkie searching for Kadath like Randolph Carter. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, this place is messed up. Well, there we have it, horror fans, our list for the top 5 most terrifying places in literature. What do you guys think? Do you agree, disagree, or do you have any more to add of your own? Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Before we depart from today's video though, let's first take a quick look at some of your more resounding remarks from over the past few days. Soul Maiden Desard says, okay Jack, if you were going to be eaten by a zombie, who would be the one you'd want to be eaten by? And that is an absolutely great question. I'm assuming that this is any zombified person from history, right? Tough one. Okay, come on, it'd be pretty great to be eaten by zombie Shakespeare, wouldn't it? Although, zombie Boudica is a pretty close contender, so that'd be insane as well. Yeah, either or. Shakespeare or Boudica. Well, on that note, unfortunately that's what we've got time for in today's video. Just stick around all the way until the end. If you were a fan of this video or just top 5 scary videos in general, then please be a dear and hit that thumbs up button, as well as that subscribe button, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. As per usual, I've been your horror host Jack Finch. You've been watching top 5 scary videos, and until next time, you take it easy. Mystery, it seems, is always afoot, and ever since our ancestors crouched around campfires out in the deep dark wood whilst wolves and other such monsters howled into the night, our civilization has been obsessed with the relentless pursuit of long-lost magical kingdoms, places of power that have been hidden from human sight to shield their otherworldly riches from unworthy, prying eyes. Folklore has been the foil to our society for time long forgotten. Within that eternal canon, brave adventurers and unassuming heroes alike have been tasked with discovering some of the most mysterious and unobtainable locations in folklore. So, in that case, I guess we better give it a shot of our own and take a look. Hello horror fans, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the Scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. As per usual, I'll be your horror host Jack Finch, as today we curiously take a look at the top 5 most mysterious places in folklore. Roll the clip. For the curious amongst you, that clip was of course from 1999's Sleepy Hollow, a fantastic horror-fueled foray into folklore as Ichabod Crane gingerly took an axe to the Tree of the Dead moments before finding out that the Headless Horseman had a habit of storing human heads like a particularly greedy squirrel. And really, I'll use any excuse to give a shout out to Sleepy Hollow because it's an awesome film and we're all about setting the tone over here at Top 5 Scary Videos. So, in that case, tone set. Let's begin. Kicking off at number 5, Biringan City. And for our first entry, we're heading over to the northern Samar province of the Philippines, where for hundreds of years, local legend and whisperings of folklore have spoken about a place that seemingly doesn't exist within our dimension, but is instead a portal to another realm where the supernatural encantos, the enchanted supernatural beings of Filipino myth and legend, reside. Some refer to this mysterious place as the Black City or the Invisible City, but in the language of Waray, the local tongue of northern Samar, the literal translation of this place is where one finds the lost. Geographically speaking, the actual location of this mysterious place is considered by many to be pretty definitive, and Biringan City allegedly exists in a location off the coast of Gandara, Tarangnan and Pangsanghan in the murky depths of the North Pacific Ocean. In fact, not only that, but a number of people have actually claimed to have seen this city, which only ever appears at night in a strange array of bright glowing energy. Many sailors have claimed to have seen a dazzling city of light appearing in the distance on moonless nights, only shimmering in the distance, if only for a few brief moments. They describe it as a dark, beautiful city with high-rise towering buildings equipped with some strange advanced technology. In fact, several years ago there were numerous reports of a Japanese mining company capturing satellite images of a series of brightly lit islands off the coast of northern Samar, who believed it to be rich deposits of gold and uranium. Obviously, as mining companies are apt to do, they began work immediately, setting up a large worksite in the town of San Jorge, sending boats out to the location where their satellite images had captured the lights. Strangely enough though, the town of San Jorge survey and the mining company were soon plagued with a series of mysterious accidents and mishaps, and within mere weeks the company was forced to shut down the operation in fear of bankruptcy. Now, I'm not saying what they found was definitively evidence of Biringan City, but I'm also not saying that because it's pretty interesting, right? Swinging in at number 4, KITEZH. And this particular bastion of folklore is equal parts awesome and equal parts something straight out of a fantasy novel. As the legend tells it, beneath the waters of Lake Svetloya of Nizhny Novgorod Oblast in central Russia resides a town of unimaginable ingenuity that has remained undiscovered ever since its creation sometime in the year 1200 AD. And that's down to the fact that the invisible town of KITEZH has an uncanny habit of submerging beneath the waters of Lake Svetloya at will. Yeah, isn't folklore awesome? As the legend goes, in the early 13th century, the Grand Prince of Vladimir Yuri II built a town known as Mali KITEZH, or Little KITEZH, on the banks of the Volga River. Later on, after the town found great success and fortune, Yuri decided to cross the other rivers that flowed from the banks of the Volga, where he found an even more beautiful spot on the shores of Lake Svetloya. According to Russian folklore, that's where Yuri decided to build a town even greater than Little KITEZH, where he named this one Bolshoi KITEZH, or Big KITEZH. Soon after its construction, the two towns of KITEZH became a place of such immense success that they drew the attention of the Golden Horde, the Mongol army under the leadership of Batu Khan that had already conquered vast portions of the Russian lands. As the legend goes, the Mongols quickly captured and ransacked Little KITEZH, forcing Yuri II to retreat back through the hidden passages of the woods to Bolshoi KITEZH. The Golden Horde quickly found him, though, sheltering in the town on the shores of Lake Svetloya, but as soon as the army approached the town, they found no fortifications, just a bunch of villagers in the square on their knees praying. Thinking they quickly got the upper hand, the Golden Horde charged at them, but suddenly countless fountains of water burst from beneath the ground as the army were washed back, witnessing the town of KITEZH submerge itself fully into the lake before disappearing entirely. Some say that still to this day you can still hear the chiming of bells and people singing from beneath the waters of Lake Svetloya. Russian Atlantis? Who knew? Next up at number 3, High Brazil. And for this one in particular, we're heading over to a mystical, magical realm that allegedly existed off the western coast of Ireland, a breathtaking place of immense natural beauty and also home to some of the most awesome instances of folklore going. Although this one is perhaps a somewhat lesser known location of local legend and is shrouded in mysteries of both the physical and the metaphysical. And also, no, not Brazil as in the very real place that exists in South America. In fact, the actual etymology of Brazil, or High Brazil, is relatively uncertain, but is thought to have come from the Irish word we Briseil, which means descendants of the clan Briseil, one of the ancient clans of Ireland. As the legend tells it, High Brazil is a phantom island that is said to lie somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. An Irish myth describes it as a place cloaked in mist that appears for only one day every 7 years. Despite that, though, strangely enough, the island itself appeared on a number of nautical maps dating as far back as 1325, and up until the late 1800s was considered to be very much a real place. So much so, in fact, that in 1480 expeditions for the island of High Brazil set out from Bristol, where, although the historical records are murky, a captain known as John Cabot was noted as actually discovering the place. A few hundred years later, in 1674, a Captain John Nisbet claimed to have seen the island whilst travelling on a voyage between France and Ireland, stating in his personal records that the island of High Brazil was a bizarre place populated by large black rabbits and a lonesome magician who lived in a tall stone castle. He claimed to have glimpsed the island just off the coast of the Isles of Arran. In fact, talk of the island of High Brazil became so widespread in folklore afterwards that it was considered by many to be the other Atlantis, evidence of a long-forgotten sunken empire that resided in the deep waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Again, strangely enough, in 1862, High Brazil was considered to have been identified as the Porcupine Bank by the Geological Society of Ireland, a series of cold water reefs that appeared 200 miles from the coast of Western Ireland. Many consider the reefs to be evidence that the sunken island of High Brazil was once a very, very real place. What do you guys think? Coming in at number 2, DINAS, EMRYS. And for this one, we're staying firmly in the British Isles with perhaps one of the most mystical and magical places in the equally magical realm of Wales, a place of such ancient mystery steeped in folklore traditions and Celtic mythologies that there's quite a few places to choose from when it comes to the mysterious places of folklore. But this one, DINAS EMRYS, is perhaps the most incredible and also, strangely enough, perhaps the only entry on this list that has the archaeological credibility to back it up. That's a bold claim, right? But let me explain. As the legend goes, the warlord Vortigern, king of the Britons, fled into Wales to escape the Anglo-Saxon invaders sometime in the 5th century. Expecting some bloodthirsty battle, he chose a lofty hill fort to defend his royal retreat that resided in a rocky and wooded hill near Gwynedd in northwest Wales. Every day, Vortigern's men worked their fingers to the bone trying to erect the first stone tower of the fort, but the next morning they would find their work crumbled and collapsed in a heap. This continued for weeks on end to no avail, and in a final act of desperation, Vortigern was advised to seek the aid of a young boy that lived in the woods. A young boy not conceived by a mortal man, and after sending his soldiers out into the Welsh valleys, eventually they found him. His name was Mryden Emrys, who you may also know by his other name Merlin Ambrosius, as in yes, that Merlin of Arthurian legend. Now the young Merlin quickly diagnosed the king's dilemma and informed him that beneath the mountain were two verms or dragons, one white and one red, one that represented the Saxons and fought for them, but would soon be defeated by the Red Dragon of Wales. While Vortigern wasn't the wisest of kings and ignored Merlin's advice, which quickly led to his downfall, but Welsh legend believed that the Red Dragon remained at the fort, which after Vortigern's downfall was constructed to near perfection following Merlin's design. Strangely enough though, in 1954-1956, two excavations of the alleged site of Dinas Emrys were undertaken, and researchers were surprised to discover that not only were the foundations of the alleged fortifications found, but that they carbon dated to pretty much the precise time that Vortigern ruled in Britain. Yeah, this place is pretty magical in more ways than one. And finally, coming in at our #1 spot, El Dorado. Because we can't talk about mysterious places without giving an allusion to one of the most renowned locations in the murky mysteries of humankind, El Dorado, the City of Gold. A place that was once considered to be a man, a mythological tribal chief of the Muisca people, whose legend then morphed into a city, then to a kingdom, and then finally an empire of pure gold and riches untold. Although it was considered to be disseminated across South America by mere whispers, countless rumors that have since morphed into an unreachable legend as the Spanish conquistadors plundered their way through Colombia, Venezuela, and portions of northern Brazil. There is no denying the fact that El Dorado is the holy grail when it comes to mythology, folklore, and the relentless pursuit of human adventure. Throughout history, the concept of El Dorado has undergone several transformations, eventually being combined with the mythologies of several legendary lost cities, many of which may be entirely true. However, perhaps the strangest part of the El Dorado legend is that there may already be credible evidence to at least its existence. Although it was dismissed entirely in the 19th century as a myth, the legend has been tied to Lake Perim, a place that allegedly became the gateway to the Golden City, but was since closed off to prying adventurers. Strangely enough though, evidence of the existence of Lake Perim was discovered in 1977. Researchers discovered watermarks of an ancient lake along the surrounding hillsides where Lake Perim was considered to be, and geological studies corroborated the fact that 700 years prior, in 1690, a massive earthquake had opened up a huge bedrock fault where the lake should have been, forming a rift that caused the lake to disappear completely. I mean, that sounds like a pretty convincing way to lose the entrance to a vast golden city, right? Well, unless it's been discovered already. Who knows? Well, there we have it, horror fans, our list for the top 5 most mysterious places in folklore. What do you guys think? Do you agree, disagree, have any more to add to this list? Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below, as well as any choice picks of your own. Before we depart from today's video though, let's first take a quick look at some of your more resounding remarks from the past few days. First up, Michael Sansevero says, please never stop with the horror themed dad jokes, and can you give a shout out to my kids, Arik and Luke, who are both huge horror and top 5 scary videos fans as well. Of course I can, Michael Sansevero, consider it done. It's done. Also, what's up Arik and Luke? Many thanks for the support. Have a good one. On that note, that's all we've got time for in today's video. Just stick around all the way until the end. If you were a fan of this video or just top 5 scary videos in general, then please be a dear and hit that thumbs up button, as well as that subscribe bell, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. As per usual, I've been your horror host, Jack Finch. You've been watching top 5 scary videos, and until next time, you take it easy.
Whether you're religious, a ghost hunter, a history buff, or just a big fan of architecture, there's nothing quite like a church, specifically an old church, with a lot of them housing some very dark and tragic events, from fires to vaults to restless spirits. Churches, though they are a sanctuary for some, can also be some of the scariest places you can encounter. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scary churches where praying won't help you. Let's jump in. Coming in at 5, St. Paul's Episcopal Church, Key West, Florida. St. Paul's Church is the 4th church structure built by St. Paul's between the 1800s and early 1900s. And though it may look bright and new, this is because the church has been rebuilt numerous, and I mean numerous times. The original church, made of coral rock, was completed in 1839. However, However, it was destroyed during the Havana hurricane in 1846 and was rebuilt in 1848. Once again though, the church was destroyed when the Great Fire of Key West struck in 1886. However, by some good fortune, the rectory survived unscathed, and the rebuilding once again began on the third structure, ending in 1887. However, disaster struck once again though in 1909 when the church was destroyed by a powerful hurricane. This time though, the parish hall survived, as well as the rectory. The church was once again rebuilt and construction was completed in 1919. However, during all of these rebuilds, it was discovered that the site was once a Seminole burial ground, with the land being previously owned by the Fleming family before the church was built, and the land was only granted after the widow was assured her husband's remains that were interred on the land would not be disturbed. However, this is where it gets spooky. Legend has it that the promise was broken and the widow's husband, John William Charles Fleming, was removed from the site. Spookier still, according to some locals, his ghost still wanders the site. Other apparitions have been reported as well in the graveyard, one being a ghostly group of children who were killed in a fire set by a jealous deacon who was taking revenge on his unfaithful wife. Yeah, yikes. Coming in at 4, St. Andrews on the Red, Selkirk, Canada. Built between 1845 and 1849 to serve the local community of retired Hudson Bay Company personnel, this church is located in a small suburb of Winnipeg, located on a lightly forested hill with an incredibly impressive Gothic design. It is by far the oldest stone church in Western Canada and has definitely had its fair share of paranormal activity. The church became an old campfire story among young teens and rebellious kids who would dare their friends to walk backwards around the church 3 times, with the expectation that you would disappear. Now of course that never actually happened, but it was still a frightening tale to tell children so they didn't wander through the cemetery at night. Now what makes this church truly chilling is that victims of influenza, diphtheria, typhoid and tuberculosis from the early colonial era were interred here, and their restless spirits are said to still wander the grounds of the church. Specifically, some visitors have reported disembodied red eyes floating through the cemetery, organs playing spontaneously, as well as a mysterious woman cloaked in white who is known to rattle the gates of the church. If you dare, you can take a self-guided tour of the church located in Selkirk, Canada. Coming in at 3, St. Michan's Church, Dublin, Ireland. This is an Anglican church built on the site of an early Norse chapel from 1095, with the current structure dating back to 1686, undertaken by William Robinson. As it stands, this church is the only parish church on the north side of the River Liffey, surviving from a Viking foundation. Now the exterior of the church is nothing to write home about, however the interior is what we're going to be discussing, specifically the vaults. The vaults of St. Michan's contain a large amount of mummified remains, with the walls of the vaults containing limestone, thus keeping the air dry and creating ideal conditions for preservation. Among the remains of the 400-year-old body of a nun, a 6.5-foot man believed to have been a crusader, a boy with a severed right hand and feet, and Henry and John Shears, who took part in the 1798 rebellion. Unfortunately, a number of the crypts in the church's vaults were damaged by vandals in 1996 and once again in 2019. After the most recent event, the church has stated that several mummified remains were desecrated by vandals, including the remains of the nun and the crusader. Tours used to be open, however after the recent incident they have been temporarily shut down. Not only will you be dealing with the enraged spirits of the dead when visiting this church, but also the despicable living. Coming in at 2, Cathedral of the Assumption of Our Lady, Guadalajara, Mexico. Also known as the Guadalajara Cathedral, this is a Roman Catholic cathedral of the Archdiocese of Guadalajara and was built in 1541 in the Spanish Renaissance style with neo-Gothic spires. However, though the building is beautiful, it has been plagued by hauntings and tragic events. On May 30th, 1574, during Mass, neighbours fired shots into the air. Some of the bullets fell onto the cathedral and started a fire, ultimately damaging the building. A second tragic event struck in 1818 when an earthquake shook the city, causing the towers and dome to collapse. The cathedral was of course repaired, however it continues to be in danger. It was damaged by earthquakes in 1932, 1957, 1985, 1995 and 2003. However, outside of natural disasters, the cathedral also has a ghostly side to it. One of the most popular attractions is of course the Crypt of Archbishops, which is truly chilling. However, more chilling still are the mummified bodies on display there, with one dating back to the 1700s, which belongs to a child that was killed for converting converting to Catholicism. Some visitors to the cathedral have claimed that they have seen her eyes blink and have witnessed her hair move. Very spooky indeed. And finally, coming in at number 1, St. Thomas Anglican Parish of Mulgoa, New South Wales, Australia. Designed by Reverend Thomas Mackison and built from 1836 to 1838, this church is incredibly striking with a Gothic Revival design and is said to be one of the most haunted churches in not just Australia, but in the world. Though the church is youthful in appearance and located in a semi-rural area, it is hiding an incredibly dark and tragic history. Legend has it that 2 young boys died in a fire in the bell tower of the church after a prank went horribly wrong. Since that fateful day, any kind of light, even candles, anger the spirits of the boys' restless spirits. According to a Facebook group, Haunted Places of Sydney, they say, I quote, "There's an urban legend that claims that if you drive laps around the church at night, the headlights of your car will switch off, and if you continue, the car will stall." However, it isn't just the church's legend that is creepy. The surrounding cemetery is also filled with monuments that date back almost 200 years ago. With monuments that date back almost 200 years, adding to the creepy factor. As of right now, the church is owned by Anglican Church Property Trust and was added to the New South Wales State Heritage Register on April 2nd, 1999. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any scary churches that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below and perhaps we can do a part 2. Can't wait to not be able to pronounce anything. If you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. Until next time, see you later. Mexico isn't just a beautiful place to vacation, filled with gorgeous beaches and zesty events, but it also has some unrest. And not just among the living, but the dead are restless too, which has added some bizarre freakiness around its cities. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scary haunted places in Mexico. Also, apologies in advance if I butcher any of these names. My bad. I'm not Mexican or Spanish. Let's just jump in. Coming in at 5, Casa de los Tubos. Also known as the House of Tubes, this is perhaps one of the most popular haunted places in Mexico because of its exemplary spiral make and cylindrical hallways. Specifically, one house in Monterrey, Mexico has caused a lot of buzz amongst locals as well as urban legend fanatics. According to some sources, there is a very famous legend about an abandoned building called the House of Tubes, a strange structure built in the 1970s but was never inhabited. From the outside of the house, it looks almost like a set of grey concrete tubes standing on end, and on the inside the hallways are cylindrical in shape. One side of the house also has a series of ramps that lead to upper floors, and on the side the levels are connected by large stairs. Now, the legend goes that the house was built by a wealthy couple who had a paralysed daughter. The father, of course, wanted to create a special home that was custom made just for her, hence the ramps leading from floor to floor, allowing her to move freely in her wheelchair. However, when construction began, her father took her to see the new home, during which time 2 of the architects who designed the property died after concrete fell on them. However, the construction continued. After construction, the father returned with his daughter, who decided to test out the new ramps going up and down from floor to floor. However, her parents looked away for just a few moments when their daughter's wheelchair suddenly started to slide backwards down the ramp. She was unable to stop herself and the girl went flying out of the open window, falling to her death. The home was left abandoned, but visitors report seeing a little girl stood near the window she fell from, as well as the sounds of weeping from the lost soul. Coming in at 4, House of Mummies, Guanajuato. In the city of Guanajuato lies Mexico's most eccentric museum that has quickly sparked ghostly rumors. The museum houses naturally mummified bodies interred during a cholera outbreak around Guanajuato, Mexico in 1833. The bodies were supposedly disinterred between 1870 and 1958, during which time a local tax was in place requiring a fee to be paid for perpetual burial. Bodies for which the tax was not paid were disinterred, and some, those in the best condition, were stored in a nearby building. Now, the cause of the mummification is a unique combination of mineral-rich soils and an extremely dry climate, and according to locals, the preserved bodies have been known to move, whisper, and even weep. As of 2007, the museum continued to exhibit 59 of the total 111 mummies in the collection. The mummies mummies are a notable part of Mexican pop culture, echoing the national holiday, the Day of the Dead, as well as the B-movie titled Santo vs. the Mummies of Guanajuato, which pitted well-known professional wrestler Santo and several others against reanimated mummies. Coming in at 3, the TASQUENA station, Mexico City. Perhaps one of the most haunted spots in the wide networks of public transportation in Mexico, this station holds the reputation of being the scariest station on the metro route. Many locals believe the station to be haunted, with an elderly man reportedly haunting solo commuters who are waiting on the platform. However, don't fret, he is said to be friendly. Rumor has it the man died during an assault at the station and is now lingering around the station, protecting passengers from a similar fate. Whether you find this scary is up to you, but personally I wouldn't travel solo through the TASQUENA station. I've known time for evil or friendly ghosts, just saying. Coming in at 2, Posada del Sol, Mexico City. In the center of Mexico City lies the ruins of the Hotel Posada del Sol, an abandoned hotel that is perhaps one of the most haunted sites in all of Mexico. Now, this once upon a time magnificent structure was the project of Fernando Saldana Galvin. However, during the same time, Fernando ended his life in the hotel's courtyard after being buried in debt. Now, the Posada del Sol lies abandoned and coated in lifeless graffiti and tales of the supernatural. However, what adds to the eeriness of the hotel is the tale about the spirit of a dead young girl, who is believed to be wandering the underground chambers of the hotel. According to reports, the girl was found dead inside the hotel, which surprised authorities considering no common man can enter or even tour the hotel. However, those who have found a way often offer sweets and candy at the altar located in the macabre basement out of respect and love for the young girl. To add more mystery to the hotel, it is rumored it was actually built to perform human sacrifice as part of a satanic ritual. However, this story has never been confirmed. As of today, the hotel rests as a decrepit shell of a shattered dream, crumbling behind a tall fence and heavy security. Would you ever attempt to enter the haunted Posada del Sol? I wouldn't. And finally, coming in at number 1, the Island of Dolls, Mexico City. Located in the channels of Xochimilco, south of Mexico City, is where you can find this terrifying and haunted island, aptly named the Island of the Dolls, which houses broken and deteriorated dolls of various styles and colors that were originally placed there by former owner of the island, Julian Santana Barrera. Dolls hang from the branches of trees with many missing heads or limbs. The former owner, Julian, lived in the area for more than 50 years and began his collection to fend off evil spirits after he found the body of a drowned young girl in the lake, which in turn resulted in him hearing whispers in the night which he believed were coming from the girl. So, to appease the spirit, he began to hang the dolls, placing them all around the island. Sadly, however, in 2001, Julian met the same fate as the young girl, even drowning in the same place. Following his death, the island quickly became a major tourist attraction, with some visitors even claiming to see the dolls move or even talk. However, for those seeking a thrill, the Island of Dolls is a little tricky to access, with the only way of getting to it being via Trajanera. However, most rows will happily transport people across the island, with the journey taking approximately 1 hour. However, those who refuse usually do so because of superstitions. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any haunted places in Mexico that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 2. If you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. And until next time, see you later. With the sheer amount of history that West Virginia has, it is no surprise that there is no shortage of hauntings and spooky tales to surface from the state. For years, residents and tourists have reported paranormal activity from across the land, with some more notable than others. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scary haunted places in West Virginia. Let's jump in. Coming in at 5, West Virginia Penitentiary. Opened all the way back in 1875, the West Virginia Penitentiary in Moundsville is said to be one of the most haunted prisons in the states. The first building constructed on the site was the North Wagon Gate, which was made with hand-cut sandstone. The state used prison labor during the process, and work continued on this first phase up until 1876. Following completion, the prison consisted of the North Wagon Gate, north and south cell blocks, a kitchen, dining area, hospital, and chapel, as well as a 4-story tower connecting the 2 administration buildings. The prison also included space for female inmates and personal living quarters for the warden and his family. Once the prison opened, it housed 251 male inmates, including some who helped construct the prison where they were incarcerated. The condition of the prison worsened throughout the years, and the facility was eventually ranked as one of the top 10 most violent correctional facilities. On Wednesday, November 7, 1979, 15 prisoners escaped from the prison, prison, one of them being Ronald Turney Williams, who was serving time for murdering Sergeant David Lilly of the Beckley Police Department. He managed to steal a guard's weapon and reach the streets where he encountered 23-year-old off-duty state trooper Philip S. Kesner, who was driving past with his wife. Kesner attempted to take action against Williams, but he was shot in the process. The prison was home to riots, fires, and nearly 100 executions during its time in operation. To this day, visitors have reported sightings of phantom inmates and a shadow man wandering the premises, as well as unexplained voices and cold spots. You can take tours around this haunted penitentiary and even view the electric chair dubbed Old Sparky. For you brave souls out there, you can also do an overnight session if you dare. Coming in at 4, North Bend Rail Trail Tunnel number 19. North Bend Rail Trail is located in Ritchie County in West Virginia and is a favorite for hikers, cyclists, and horseback riders traversing the 72-mile-long trail. However, proceed with caution if you wind up in the area, particularly around tunnel number 19, also known as the Silver Run Tunnel. History goes that on one foggy evening in 1910, an engineer spied a young woman in a flowing white dress standing on the tracks. He brought the train to a stop, but when he searched for the woman, she had vanished. He wasn't the only one to spot her either, many of his predecessors had as well. No one quite knows the origin of the woman in white, although some bones were found under a house near the tunnel. Some people say you can still spot her. Now, those who explore the tunnel are advised to bring a flashlight even during the day, with the tunnel being over 1,376 feet long, which is beyond sunlight's reach. You have been warned. Coming in at 3, Droop Mountain Battlefield. On November 6, 1863, the Battle of Droop Mountain occurred in Pocahontas County, West Virginia during the American Civil War. Confederate forces engaged but failed to prevent Union forces under General W.W. Averill from a rendezvous with other Federal troops in a joint raid on Confederate railways. Droop Mountain was one of the largest engagements in West Virginia during the war and essentially resulted in the Confederate collapse. The battlefield site is now preserved and administered by West Virginia as a state park, and the unknown Confederate dead are buried in the Confederate Cemetery at Lewisburg. A wooden observation tower, hiking trails, and picnic tables mark the grounds where the Civil War soldiers fought, died, and some say still remain. Many visitors have reported sounds of galloping horses and sightings of the ghosts of headless Confederate soldiers, as well as one soldier lying asleep against a tree. Coming in at 2, Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. In the late 1700s, the Clay family moved to West Virginia, which is presently known as Mercer County. The Clay family, comprised of Mitchell and his wife, settled on an 800-acre farm and raised 14 children. However, in 1783, tragedy struck. While Mitchell was out hunting, a few members of the Shawnee tribe killed 2 of the Clay children and burned another at the stake. In retaliation, Mitchell hunted down a handful of Native Americans and killed them. The land in turn became unoccupied for years, up until the early 1900s when Conley T. Snyder purchased the land and built a small amusement park on it. However, the amusement park had just as unfortunate luck as the Clay family. The park featured a Ferris wheel and a swing ride and was popular among locals, particularly families of coal miners who resided in the area. In the early 1950s, a young girl on the swing ride was killed when a truck delivering sodas accidentally backed into the ride, striking her. Another child also drowned in the swimming pool, which was subsequently filled in to prevent further accidents. During its operation, at least 6 people died at the park, which resulted in the park ultimately closing in 1966. In 1985, Gaylord White, a former employee of the park, purchased the land with plans to reopen it. It happened for a brief period, that is, before the park closed again after a 1988 archaeological dig uncovered numerous Native American artifacts, as well as human remains on the property that had been buried prior to the arrival of the Anglo-European settlers. In total, 13 skeletons were uncovered, mostly of young children. Perhaps the property is cursed, or perhaps it's just a series of unfortunate events. Who knows? But one thing is for sure, it is one of the most haunted places in the entire world. And finally, coming in at number 1, the TRANS-ALLEGHENY Lunatic Asylum. The TRANS-ALLEGHENY Lunatic Asylum, also known as the Western State Hospital, was a Kirkbride psychiatric hospital that operated from 1864 to 1994 by the government. Originally built by Richard Andrews, it was constructed from 1858 to 1881 and was originally designed to hold 250 people. However, it became overcrowded in the 1950s, with the hospital housing 2,400 400 patients, resulting in it being forcibly closed in 1994 due to changes in patient treatment. Following its closure, it was then purchased by Joe Jordan in 2007 and is open for tours and other events to raise money for its restorations. During tours of the facility, witnesses have reported doors slamming, shadowy figures, and even blood-curdling screams from within the building walls. The asylum has garnered such a spooky reputation it has appeared on shows such as Ghost Stories, Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, and Paranormal Lockdown. It was also featured in Bethesda's 2018 video game Fallout 76 under the name Fort Defiance and acted as a base for the Brotherhood of Steel, one of the game's main factions. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any haunted places that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, as well as what place you would like us to tackle next. If you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. And until next time, see you later.